Problem is I got clowns to the left of me and jokers to the right of me. And I'm stuck in the middle with you. Because now here comes Orrin Hatch from the right with nothing but lies and nonsense. I don't know how these people live with themselves. Clip number 1.
And there is still a significant amount of finger-pointing coming from the White House. Take another listen to more of what the president had to say last night, then I want to get your reaction on the other side.
Okay.
And yet, after driving our economy into the ditch, they decided to stand on the side of the road and watch us while we pulled it out of the ditch. They asked, why haven't you pulled it out fast enough? I noticed there's like a little scratch there in the fender. Why didn't you do something about that?
Now, admittedly, he is speaking to a Democrat audience there. It was a fundraiser for Senator Barbara Boxer, but I don't know. You're a senator, a Republican senator. Tell me, how does that kind of talk help move the process along?
Well, it was a political talk. We all make allowances for that. And, of course, it was for Barbara Boxer, one of the most liberal senators in the history of the Senate. So, you know, you expect that type of stuff from time to time. I don't get hurt by that. But the problem is they really don't work with us. They really don't try.
Oh, cry me a frickin'
what they
river.
try to do is get one Senate Republican and then call it a bipartisan bill. When Republicans have a lot of good ideas in this area, and we have a lot of Republicans who'd be willing to work with them. Over the years, I have a reputation for working with Democrats, lawman on health care, you name it, and not one effort to try and get us to work together. It's take it or leave it is the attitude.
That was great. I don't know if you caught it there because I played the baby crying noise because that guy was driving me crazy. He said, I have a long track record of working with the Democrats, like on health care. Really? JR, you remember him voting for the health care bill? My recollection was that none of them voted for it. Oh, right. No, he didn't. Huh. Now, he's referring to something that happened decades ago. Oh, I used to work with Teddy Kennedy back in the 1930s. Yeah, all right, whatever. And he said, why doesn't he reach out to us? I mean, we go to the Wall Street guys and ask for their money and say, don't give it to Democrats because we'll sell out better for you. And then we try to kill the financial reform bill, but why doesn't he work with us? How did working with you guys work out in health care reform? Did that work out pretty nicely? And I love Fox News. I mean, get a load of these guys. Obama talks a little tough, a tiny bit tough. And they're like, that kind of talk doesn't help, does it, Senator Hatch? I don't remember them saying that when Bush would talk tough. You guys remember that? They'd be like, oh, Bush was too tough on the Democrats today. Fox News. Yeah, I don't know. Try and find that clip. See if you can get a hold of one of those. I don't think they exist. All right, now Orrin Hatch is not done with his lies yet. Let's go to clip number 2.
By the way, this whole Goldman Sachs thing, isn't that a little odd that all of a sudden, right at the height of this legislative period, we suddenly have the SEC and filing suit against Goldman Sachs?
You think the timing?
When Goldman Sachs.
You think the timing of those charges
is very suspect. It's very suspect. Secondly, think about it. Goldman Sachs, on the deals that they're talking about, was dealing with the most sophisticated people in the business. You know, there's something terribly wrong here, and I don't know what it is. But to do that right at this particular time, yeah, the timing is very suspect in my eyes. Now look, when he blames us for the economy that he, quote, inherited, give me a break. Over the last 34 years I've been in the Senate, there have been very few times when you could say the fiscal conservatives were in the majority, and they certainly were not in the majority during the Bush years. In other words, the same liberal, big spending crowd has always had the sway. And for him to blame Republicans for that, I think it's just total, well, let's put it gently, BS.
Yeah, no, it's true. The problem with Bush and Cheney was that they were too liberal. They held sway. Those liberals held sway over Congress and the White House for 8 years. When the Republicans had overwhelming majorities and got almost every bill they wanted passed, no. In fact, your eyes were misleading you. It was liberals who were in charge. I mean, to say that they turned the facts on their head is a gross understatement. Yeah, when Orrin Hatch was the head of those committees, no. In fact, he wasn't. They were secretly run by liberals. And by the way, Orrin Hatch, you see how he's covering for Goldman Sachs there? He's like, oh, these charges against Goldman Sachs, they seem kind of political. What's his basis for that? Because the SEC voted 3-2 to pursue the charges. The two that voted against it were Republicans. So the Republicans inside the SEC tried to protect Goldman Sachs. And so when they vote that way, the Republicans outside the SEC say, oh, you see that? It's political, because only the Democrats voted for it. That's a great irony. And then he says, I don't know. Goldman Sachs, they were dealing with sophisticated people. They should have known they were going to get ripped off by Goldman Sachs. Well, Orrin Hatch, I appreciate that report from inside Goldman Sachs' anus. Okay, I hope you find a lot of good money up in there, because that's obviously what you're trying to do. These guys pretend that they're for conservatives, that they're for the American people from the heartland and mainstream Americans. You saw Orrin Hatch there right there for yourself, doing everything he could to protect the biggest bankers in the country, who took $13 billion of taxpayer money through the AIG backdoor bailout. They took your money, and Orrin Hatch is fishing up their ass to try to find it and put a couple of dollars in his own pocket.